mass communicate. Mass communicate. Mass communicate.
Hello and welcome to the Touchdowns All Day Podcast. I'm your host, Jon Barber. Today was a beautiful day. It was sunny outside. There was an airplane flying in the sky. And we relaxed. It's the summer. And there was a moment where I looked back in time in my own mind and remembered how weird 2020 was. And today, we are going to play you the 2020 Karina Rykman interview for your listening pleasure. If you have just listened to the previous episode, that's the 2022 interview. That's what's going on today. This interview is what was going on in the heart of that beast of a pandemic, when everybody was locked in their houses and unable to find a Danish. All Danish shipments were held up in Michigan, where all Danishes are from. So as we prepare this step into the Wayback Machine, a little relics of the past, we would like you to just keep that in mind, that this was recorded right smack in the middle of the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. America was on lockdown, and the entire entertainment business had stopped completely, grind to a halt as they see it. Listen as two musicians discuss how it affected their lives. So we are thrilled to share this ancient interview with you all. And we want you to know that we love you, and that our love for you is boundless, like the sea or the space around the moon. And we appreciate you listening to our podcast. Now, I could run through all the show dates, but you could just listen to episode 45 if you want to hear where the band is playing. And I could talk about the, Jon Barber live show, or I could talk about the Baba G guitar thing that I'm doing. We're going to get to all that. I'm going to do podcasts on all that. But I think this one is super, super weird and worth a listen. And we're kind of going to dabble with this. So here we are dabbling, foot in the pool, beautiful day. And check this out. Let us know. Hit us with some comments. Hashtag Touchdowns All Day, about what you feel about listening to the Pandemic Wayback Machine with Karina Rykman. How does it make you feel? And we would like to give away some tickets to you for just doing that, because we got a lot of shows going on. So check out some shows and we'll see you there, and we're going to give away some tickets. So send a message about what you think about the pandemic being gone and listening to that moment in history. Our sponsor is Immaculate Seeds. And let me just tell you, cannabis legalization is growing rapidly in states. You know this. We're all happy about this, right? You can get gummies everywhere, and it's great. Honestly, it's great. The founders of Immaculate Seeds, who, by the way, are biscuit heads, have been helping people grow better cannabis across the country with 50 plus years of combined experience. And there isn't 50 of them, by the way. Usually when people say 50 plus years, there's 50 plus people who have 1 year of experience. These guys have 50 years between a couple dudes, a couple people. Genetics is one of the most important parts of any successful grow. Genetics, folks. It's nature versus nurture, even in the cannabis industry. So if you are starting a grow, or you're just a cannabis OG, Immaculate Seeds has the genetics that you can trust. Contestants will come to Grow Active Solutions, purchase a pack of seeds, be entered in a raffle to win a ticket, or buy a pack of seeds online at immaculate_seeds on Instagram. There's a link tree in the bio. Go check it out. You can also send an email to immaculateseeds@gmail.com. Immaculate, this is spelled the same way that Madonna spells it, of course. These guys have been around since 2019. Bo Bradley is the leader of this troupe. He's been to 141 Biscuit shows, folks. And he found his family at the Disco Biscuits concert, which is an honor to me. So it's a pleasure to work with him. And I bet you these seeds are fire. I mean, let's be honest. They got to be amazing, right? So go ahead, reach out and get yourself some seeds or spores, because you know spores are going to be the thing moving forward, right? I need some spores, let's be honest. Let's be honest, this podcast would be so much crazier if I had more spores. So, Immaculate Seeds on Instagram. Check out their link tree in the bio, at Grow Active Solutions, at Immaculate Seeds, 3612 Hartford Street in St. Louis. Stop by. If you want to be part of the ticket giveaway or you want a free packet of seeds, go to the store, either online through Instagram or the actual, brick and mortar place at 3612 Hartford, and mention Touchdowns All Day when you order. You'll be entered into a contest to win a pair of VIP tickets to a Disco Biscuit concert. And look, folks, that alone is worth the trip. You know what I mean? That alone, just go to the website. You don't even need to go to you don't need to go to St. Louis, right? But if you live in St. Louis, you probably should swing by. So thank you, Immaculate Seeds, for sponsoring our little podcast here. Thank you for sponsoring our experiment to try and get a view into the minds of musicians mid-pandemic. And let me just say one thing. I had a, end of the worldy pal during the pandemic who was very much putting a birdie in my ear that was constantly telling me that this pandemic was going to last 25 years. So just keep in mind that in the back of my mind, in this whole interview, I'm thinking this is month 3 of 500 months. And I just feel like that needs to be said, because now everybody's like, oh, it's just a pandemic. It's just a year. But during the pandemic, we did not know. We did not know how long it was going to last. The only other one was that Spanish flu. And they're like, well, it came back 3 years later and killed everybody. It's just like, you did not know what was going to happen. I did not know what was going to happen. I mean, they couldn't even agree on the lab leak hypothesis. I mean, flat earthers were confused, and they are the most confident people I've ever met. So I thank you for listening to the podcast, and I can't wait to listen to this interview. This is Karina Rykman. If you want more information on Karina Rykman, please listen to episode 45, and that is what she's up to now. And I go a little bit more into detail about her career and what she's done, and her involvement in the scene, and all the cool things that she's been a part of. So not to bore you if you're going back to back, because, you probably are just like glued to this podcast, as you should be. Thank you, Immaculate Seeds. But we'd like to just know that we love you here. Crunk Mike loves you. And we are going to move into the interview right now. Please enjoy. Are you carrying all your bass? Is a pretty large instrument. Are you carrying that on the plane every time you go to the airport?
Yeah, and it's a nightmare. It's terrible because I fly Delta exclusively. Yeah, I'm one of those.
Really?
They're really good, but they're not as good as they could be with because I don't want to check it, God forbid. So I come on, and every single time you come on, it's just like a bit of okay, here we go again. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, do you guys have a closet that I could possibly stick this in? Because it's way too big for the overheads.
Too big for the closet.
Rock the closet, but then oftentimes they're like, oh, fucking thanks a lot, and then pulling shit out of there, moving like coat hangers with like nice suits and all that shit. And I'm just like, oh God. what did I ever do to deserve it?
I mean, I do the same thing with the guitar. I bring it in a soft case, and the guitar in a soft case does fit in the overhead just enough, but barely. I could imagine a bass you're done. Like you either get the...
Yeah, it's not so bueno, unfortunately. And now, when I fly, I just do the stripped down bass, usually, unless something's crazy. But I basically take my pedal board, which usually is yay big. It's a sizable thing. And then I strip it down into what they call the Tick 2.0, which is this big. And I fit 3 pedals on just a little guy, a rat, an octave, and a tuner. And then you zip it on to the bag. So it's
amazing.
Yeah. And it's heavy as shit and it's all good. But what do you think?
I have the same one, but I have a delay on mine. The same exact pedal board. You really just need the tuner, frankly, but it's nice to have a little delay. And of course, you have to have a rat or, what are you doing?
Right, exactly. Go home. You don't have the rat.
Yeah, what is it, though? What is it with the rat pedal and bass players? Is it a power thing? What is it?
I like it because it's so unpredictable. I like the fact that it kind of plays you. You can never figure out what's going on with the rat. You just kind of wind it up and let it slide. And it's always not quite loud enough and not quite clean enough and not it's
messy and dirty.
It's raw and dirty, and I like that. That's kind of my take on the rat.
And so you're going on these little weekend trips and you're doing full tours. Is this all with Marco, or are you playing with it seems like you have your own band at this point. Is that the case?
Yeah, there's that too. I mean, it's been a Marco heavy, since October, basically. It's been predominantly Marco. Jam Cruise was just me as a special guest.
Artist at large?
That's what they call it, that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was me all by my lonesome. And then my band's had things here and there, and we had a sweet run coming up in May, which is now over, but coronavirus,
For
that
sure.
was the name. But we were, headlining Brooklyn Bowl, Higher Ground, Milk Boy in Philly, The Hollow in Albany. I had a sweet little Northeast thing all planned out. So kind of gearing up for those guys. And I had, literally the week after quarantine started, I had recording session lined up and we were doing a splice, sample pack and doing this thing with ABC where they were going to film me and put me in the back of all the taxi cabs in New York, the Eyewitness News fucking thing or whatever. Anyway, shit was about to be really dope. And I kind of just it all, you had to really readjust with all of this. I was like, wait, what? It all went away.
I know, me too.
I bet. And on your end, were you all, I mean, I know you guys had a whole fucking thing planned out and it's just what do you do to readjust, right? You just kind of got to surrender to the flow.
We were on a building process of doing different new kind of risky things and then the baby stepping our way into seriously risky things. And I mean, I'm literally playing through computers and with an audio guitar. I'm not even playing a MIDI guitar. I'm playing an audio guitar into a computer, turning it into synthesizer notes. All this stuff was happening. And it was all dangling by the thread. And we were just doing it so often that we were able to continue to add to, keep putting plates on it and keep bouncing it. And so it's going to be a weird return to how to get back to that, because I don't even remember all the stuff that I was doing. I don't remember all my foot pedal has all these buttons, but it was all up here. It wasn't written down anywhere, and I was literally playing this pedal, which is very complicated stuff. I don't remember what all. I wish I wrote it down. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Shit, dude. Yeah, it's going to be a minute to get back to where you left off. Definitely.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. I'm shit, well, I remember all the songs that I once knew, got to stay sharp. And I practice, but it's not the same as just being on the road, thrusted into your thing.
Well, how do you play bass how do you go into a Marco gig knowing that I've known Marco for a long time. He was always the guy that was kind of beyond the structure of the music. You know, it's like there's notes and then there's whatever the hell Marco's doing, you know? How do you put bass lines together playing with somebody like that?
I come at him with the exact same vibe, and we're both just like, what are we even doing? It's fucking crazy. No. Sometimes. You know, it's interesting with his catalog of music because the first bunch of records were instrumental and kind of, you know, took on like a linear, non-repeating form. You know what I mean? And like, it was more like these kind of opuses of, you know, craziness. And now it's very much kind of like verse, chorus, verse, you know, 3-minute long indie pop songs for the most part. So it's interesting to have like, you know, done all the homework. And like when I first joined, like I learned everything and all that. And now like kind of seeing the development of like what he wants to make and all that. It's pretty wild. And I really enjoy both sides of the spectrum, I gotta say. Like I like, you know, crazy tripped out experimental jazz, and I like fucking, you know, verse, chorus, verse, little bangers. It's awesome. So I'm stoked to play any of it. And then when we improvise, it is like, you know, I'm just listening to him and he's doing so much with 2 hands and 2 feet and, you know, one hand in the piano, the other hand on a synth. And then his feet are doing God knows what, triggering loops and all this shit. So I'm just like, wow, all right, you gotta play something, you know?
Gotta play something.
It's something. It's an amazing thing to watch. And it's an amazing thing to like, you know, try and compliment as best I can, which is, you know, challenging. It's tough. He's a real monster over there doing a million things.
Are there philosophies of the jam? Like I play this and you play off of that, or let's stay in this key, or let's not stay in this key, or is there a harmonic framework that you're following? Like what's the North Star for you guys for the jamming?
It depends. And it's really tune by tune and like, you know, movement by movement. He has, you know, there's this one record he put out, not the most recent, but the one before, called The Story of Fred Short. And it's like, I forget if it's 7 or 8 tunes that kind of weave in and out of each other. And like, we don't stop playing for like 45 minutes and like just weave these different songs in and out of each other and whatnot. And within that, there are pretty cool jam sections where, you know, one can be, you know, kind of contained, and then the next can be totally not fucking contained and just go off for like a good long time. And I don't know, I try to listen to whatever he's putting down, and I try to do what I can to make it sound as best as it can, which is, you know, it's kind of my job, and I try to do that as best I can. It depends, bro. It's a good question, you know? Shit.
Is there a free jazz jam in there? Is there a don't play a normal scale jam somewhere in there?
All the time. I mean, I never know what the fuck you know, I just shoot from the hip. I'm like, yeah, you know, this will work, and you know, and does it? I don't know. Sometimes it lands, and then sometimes you're like, oh shit, that was definitely not dope enough. And you know, the next time you're like, wow, that was definitely dope enough. And
yeah,
crowd, they'll let you know. If or whatever, you know, you pick up on the different things. You try again for next time. Talk about it a little bit, but not too much.
Yeah,
we're never like listening to it and being like, "Yo, you hear that? That was not it." We never do that. We never. It's really like, you know, less spoken about than you think. Except sometimes it's like, "Yo, maybe instead of like going from the whatever to the whatever, maybe we could do this," or, you know, some various thing. And I'm like, totally love it. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
I'll kind of leave it all up on the stage. It's crazy. It's good.
That's awesome. And would you consider bass your the instrument you started on, or did you start on something besides the bass?
I started on guitar. I did start on guitar when I was 13. It was all guitar for a hot minute, but then I got a bass and kind of like played both simultaneously throughout like my teens and whatnot. And I was in like 3 bands where I played bass and 2 bands where I played guitar, and like that sort of thing kind of went between them. And it wasn't until like I got the Marco gig that I was like, oh shit, like I think I'm a bass player now. Time to like buckle down on this one specifically, as opposed to being a little scattered, you know?
And do you guys? I love guitar too. It's pretty dope. I also like bass. So I feel where you're coming from. Do you guys hold? Do you go up to? Doesn't he live in Woodstock or something like that? Do you go up there and hold like super secret rehearsals where you just play free jazz for 4 days and forget to do the songs or something like that?
That would be great. We definitely go. Come up from the city and we'll go to Woodstock and whatnot. And like before we begin a tour, usually it starts in Woodstock, no matter where we're going.
Oh, that's cool.
And we get crazy with it. Not like 4 day long experimental jazz crazy with it, though we should. It's a great vibe up there, man. Like have been living 30 minutes away this whole time. So it's cool if I can go visit Marco and the goats and the peacocks and all that stuff in a distant way, social distancing. It's the new thing. Gotta do it.
Wearing a mask, socially distanced, mask on the goats.
Like, don't come too close. Come on. These goats need to stay away. But, he has a very unique kind of beautiful studio in a mini barn, if you will, right next to his house, and fire pit, and his wife Katie will cook when we come up there, and then we'll stay up all night and then start the tour or whatever has to happen. But nothing
too
crazy in terms of the rehearsing being crazy. It's very much oh shit, we gotta learn the new songs on the new record. Yeah, you're right, we do gotta do that. Let's do that. All right, how's next weekend? And then we kind of all get together. It's mellow. And then there's a lot of learning the songs on stage on the fly and then being oh, let's try that.
Yeah, for sure. That's why, we have the same thing. At the end of tour, we're killing it. The beginning tour, it's a little confusing what goes where. You end up moving a bunch of stuff around. So,
you guys have a crazy bunch of stuff going on. And I'm a fan of the tractor beam stuff. Can I tell you that? I'm
oh, cool.
Blown away by the tractor beam stuff, and just the concept of it and the execution of it is so wild to me. It's amazing. I don't know how you would rehearse for something like that. It's fucking impressive.
We don't rehearse for it. We don't do any of the things that we originally talked about doing. We made a list of things that would make tractor beam really great. We don't do any of them. We just get, when we walk on stage for sound check, we do tractor beam first, because the first 10 minutes of sound check is usually just us fucking around anyways. So we might as well do tractor beam where everybody's fully engaged technically, because that's what sound check is about, making sure you can get fully engaged technically, So for us, that's what it is. And honestly, I was about to expand tractor beam. I have 6 more foot pedals. And the more foot pedals I get, the more control of my sound I have. And then I just, I got to hook them all up and all this stuff. And they all are little screens, and I got to get nerdy on it for a second. But without any gigs, it's not exciting to get nerdy on the foot pedals, I
agree, which is a shame, because you'd think that maybe it would be a great time to dial all that in. But without the results, if you will, and a result being a gig, it's kind of just oh shit.
It is weird being a live musician with no live shows. It's just, how do you get amped up in the morning? We were going to play Mission Ballroom in Denver, and we were all excited. And there's a tractor beam set sandwiched in the middle. So it was going to be solid hour and a half of tractor beam, which means I need to be able to change from one song to another, not before the show, during the set. It was going to be a whole new challenge. And now, I could do all that work, but without the show, I just made breakfast instead. I don't know.
I get that. I'm it's I went for a run instead, and I actually have my quarantine commune up here is full of excellent musicians, and we do play a lot, and we've been, doing various little, Zoom.
Talk to me. Who's in the quarantine commune? What's going on?
I'll tell you. Well, it's my very best friend who's a big Biscuits fan, the one who took me to all of my first Biscuits shows and has shown me the way. And I don't know what I'm talking about, but he could tell, he he's way deep in it. It's Mr. Isaac Sloan, my best friend for many years. And I'm up here at his parents' country house for the last 3 months. Bless their hearts. Mm-hmm. His brother, Nathan Sloan, great guy, drummer, guitar player, all great. Isaac, phenomenal guitar player, really great. Isaac's girlfriend, Marlo Shankweiler, phenomenal guitar player, and in a band called Melt.
Okay.
Super dope, like, kind of indie pop soul vibe, killing it. And I forgot to mention Nathan Sloan in a band called Vansire, Vansire. That's like, if you check out their Spotify numbers, you'd be like, shit, why does every song have 13 million streams? Like, what is this? Like, just killing it. Awesome indie band and whatnot. And Isaac and I have been playing music together for many, many years. So,
Right.
That's just kind of on the music front. And it's been good. It's definitely been good. At least, like, we have each other to play with. I know so many of my friends are like, oh, I wish I had a band to jam with. Like, I've just been alone for 3 months. And I'm like, you're right. Like, it was good when we all decided to come up here and just hunker down, so that's been good. And we're doing these little, like, the quarantine comes alive thing. Familiar with that?
I dig that.
That thing. And, did a live from out there thing and, whatever's coming in. I just, put the whole posse to work. I'm like, yo, we're going to learn China Cat Sunflower. Are you ready? They're like, sure, let's do it. We know it. Let's go. And then it's all good. It's a good little band to be making things with during this fucked up time. So,
well, I mean, you use the word commune. It kind of implies that you all are taking acid every day. Is that the case?
It's actually not, but it's...
Oh, it's a bummer. You're allowed to, it's legal nowadays. You just microdose and it's legal.
People love it. We've been drinking a lot of wine, not a lot of tequila, which is my usual in my old life, as I like to say. I used to drink a lot of tequila, but now there's a nice wine cellar here.
I like that.
Dip into that. That's kind of the vibe. But yeah, I don't know. Between playing with those guys, I've been there's a pool. We've been swimming every day now that it's nice out. It's great.
I love it.
Nature hiking, running, the whole nine. So it's good. It all works.
Are you guys doing any like online concerts or anything? Because you literally could.
We used to stream ourselves just on my Instagram quite literally every night.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the quarantine jam bands and just like totally shooting from the hip, getting weird. And that was awesome. It was super great. We have since moved. This is actually no excuse at all, but like there's a guest house and we basically moved our whole setup from the main house in the basement to the guest house such that that's where the pool is. And there's a nice outdoor deck there. And we've liked to set up outdoors once in a while and film ourselves with a drone and like make it all pop off.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that's been sweet. And my boyfriend, who's also here, who's not a musician, but phenomenal human, great drone operator. So he's been flying the drone while the rest of us jam. And that's kind of, what I want to do is make that a series and kind of do like, a tune a week or something like that, where, probably covers mostly. And just like make it look good, put that out just because it's true. Like, while I'm, spoiled with having, all my friends who play up here, why not actually make it rain in whatever that means? But,
For sure.
Yeah. So, and we've done a couple of these, people have sought me out and been like, hey, like, I'm having a Zoom party and I want you guys to play. We'll pay you X amount. And I'm like, great. Sounds awesome. So we've done that. That's pretty cool. And I don't know, just kind of making the best of this very bizarre time. I'm like, I don't know. I've never been a video chatter, now all of a sudden I'm like, yo, video chat all fucking day. Let's go.
I know. Me too. I always never really felt the FaceTime video. My nephews are he's a video chat monster. My older nephew, like he won't even talk on the phone. He'll like hang up and call me back on FaceTime. He's 14 or 15 at this point, I think, but he's been doing it for a while. And I was like never into it because, look at me. I mean, why would I want to do a video call? But he he and I've been learning to like it through the quarantine. I'm learning to get used to it here.
You and me both. I'm usually, though, the thing that annoys me about it is I'm usually a pacer. Like when I'm on the phone, I love pace. That's kind of my vibe. And now, like, if it's like, phone calls turn into Zoom calls, all of it, it's just like now, I'm just rooted in my seat as opposed to, I guess I can, rage around with the laptop, but I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. You could roam around with the laptop on the property or just have the drone video feed go into your Zoom, and then you can walk around and the drone can follow you around.
That would be sick. And there is actually a setting on the drone where you can set it to follow something like a car or maybe me.
Wow.
Follow me. That's the Zoom call. I like that. Thanks, Barber. That's smart.
So wait a second. There's a setting on the drone where you can choose something. Does that work?
That's a great question. I don't know. I've never done it, but we've read up on this new drone.
Oh.
By the way, drones used to, 4 years ago, a drone used to be over $1,000, no question, like the shittiest drone. I'm just letting all your listeners know you can get a drone on the cheap these days, and it's dope. It's just one of those things that it's just come down in price and become way more accessible to the layman, if you will. So everybody should go out and get a drone. It's fucking stupid, but it's fun as hell. And I have not done the set it on a specific thing, but they do that in movies and stuff, or just follow this car type vibe, or I don't know. We should try.
I mean, it's so subsidized by the military. I'm sure the drone has so many terrible features built into it. But we used to, at my last house, we used to shoot one up and take pictures of the parties that we were having, and those are all the good photos. It's so cool to see it go up and down and zoom in on people. Everybody's like, "Yay, cheers, party time!" So it's good for the commune. You have to do a little bit of documentary film work at the commune so that you can establish the communes. They always fall into chaos so quickly. They're great, and then something happens and they fall into complete chaos and everybody paints their faces and attacks each other. You want to have good video footage of before that. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Before it all, we all turn cannibal style and it turns to shit. My friend's dad has told me, we were at dinner one night and there are bees on the property. And
oh, really?
Yeah, for real. It's
they raise their own bees. They have hives.
Yes. And we make the honey and it's a whole thing or whatever. And there's the bee man.
Because I was about to think you were the most city person ever. You're like, oh my God, they have these things called bees. I was like, wow, you really did grow up in the city. That's crazy.
Serious. All of this is new to me. It's all just fascinating. I can't even believe what grass looks like. I can't even believe it. It's just crazy. I'm really, one step at a time. But free in the country, and there are bees, and there's a bee man who's this dope dude who comes and deals with the bees, right? No face protection, no hand protection. He literally touches them with his hands and moves them around. It's some crazy shit.
How many bees is he touching?
Oh, Jesus. I don't even want to tell you. Hundreds.
What?
Raging on the property. It's crazy. But one.
And he doesn't have the beekeeper mesh thing over his face?
This guy is just straight up knee deep in the bees, and it's crazy to watch. It's holy shit. And let me tell you, this dude, he comes over and there are also these wild turkeys on the property. This is how country I've gone. Trust me, to your fellow listeners, I barely even seen anything other than a pigeon or a rat my entire life. From Manhattan, you know what I'm saying? Anyway,
right.
The guy sees all these turkeys on the property because it's mating season. Their turkeys are everywhere. And he goes, "Hey, you guys ever kill and eat one of these turkeys?" And we're like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, you have to. Oh my God, I do it all the time. They are delicious. And you guys have smokers." We have these smokers because they're into making brisket and all this shit. And he says, "You guys really ought to kill one of these turkeys." And I was like, "Oh yeah? All right, interesting. So we're talking about this over dinner. And my friend's father quite literally says, "Karina, if you can kill one of these turkeys and then we eat it, which you won't be in charge of, like literally you just kill it and bring it. Somebody else will pluck it and figure out how to put it in the smoker. I will give you $5,000 US cash. And I immediately leapt over the table. We shook on it and I said, you fucking better put your money where your mouth is.
Oh, yeah.
I have yet to kill the turkey. And there are no guns here, by the way, nothing like that. So it's just like, I have a net.
You have to catch it.
I have to catch it. So now picture that, me running around trying to catch a turkey in hopes, $5,000 not falling on trees these days, like out of trees.
It's a nice payday for a turkey because it's got to be $20 worth of meat tops. You know what I mean? He's way overpaying you in this situation.
I think it needs to be done, and it's also just a hilarious image. So I'm just like scouting them out. Some of them are enormous, like prehistoric looking, fucking like they're gonna kill you. So
it's kind of like working with a first time concert promoter who comes in way high on the offer. You kind of just got to say yes and take their money as quickly as possible. You know what I mean?
That's what I thought. I was like, first time in the market, my first time killing a turkey. Yes. That first time on the market play where they're like, oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, you can do X amount of tickets. No problem. Oh, yes, I can. And then
100%. I'd love to take your 5,000. I need 4,000 of it in advance. And then when I show up to the show, I'll get the last grand. And then that's what you need. You need an advance on your turkey capturing process. Up
front in fives.
Mm-hmm.
Wheelbarrowed up to my room. That would be great because I'd like to swim in it. And then, that's brilliant. I should have really asked for that. And they're getting harder to find these days. I haven't seen as many on the property, but I'll let you know if I actually kill a turkey. That would be savage AF. So we'll see.
Savage AF. I love it. If you do get a turkey, we should do some kind of contest on the podcast here where whoever tweets the funniest turkey, whoever can capture a turkey or something. I don't know. We got to think of a new contest for the podcast. This has some potential. There's some potential.
And no guns involved. No guns. Bow and arrow, all on the table. That's fine. In fact,
okay. I
should get a bow and arrow because maybe that would work. I just think it's so funny to picture me popping out of the bushes with a fucking net and a baseball bat trying to destroy.
Wait, you don't have to just grab it Rocky style where you like get in the pen with them and you just kind of grab it like that? Not like that?
Grab it by the neck and then the next few minutes are unpleasant and then, you're eating a beautifully smoked fresh turkey just like the B-Man told me to do. So
don't you hate it when old people put a bunch of money on something because it's way harder than you're imagining it could be, and then you got to sit around and think about it when they could have just said the guy very easily could have just said, it's hard to catch a turkey, but instead he's got to do this whole let me put a wheelbarrow of money on top of the fact that you don't know how hard it is to catch a turkey, and then you got to think I could catch it. Oh man, what's the worst?
It's tough. It's definitely tough. But I'll during these unprecedented times, I'll take, a stupid bet like that. And, we'll see if I can make it happen. It's in my court now. It's all good.
It's in your court. So let me backtrack a second because there's something I didn't get a chance to ask. What was the New York taxi cab thing? What was that going to be?
Great question, Barber. There's something in the New York City taxi cabs that's called the Eyewitness News Movie Minute. And
for sure, I've seen it.
A gentleman named Sandy Kenyon.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with this gentleman, but he is an absolute New York icon. And let me rewind a little bit back to the year 2013. I'm in a band called Youth Posse with my dear friends. And that band was like, somewhere between Ween meets Tenacious D, like totally offensive and fucked up, crazy music and lyrically insane and just, all over the place in terms of genre bending and skipping around and whatever. Anyway, I was in that band and we were all obsessed with Sandy Kenyon and we're all,
Really?
Yeah, obsessed. We're like, this is the fucking best. We're always taking a cab somewhere together.
He's in every cab. So for the listeners who are listening, Sandy Kenyon is the guy who comes on the screen every time you get in the cab. He's like this he's older gentleman. He looks like he was a weatherman 25 years ago or something. And now he does the cash cab announcements or whatever you call it.
Literally, like, for the most part, what he does is he reviews movies. He's just like, here I am, Sandy Kenyon with the Eyewitness News Movie Minute. You know?
Yes.
And then he goes on to basically tell you about the new hot movie. But in recent times, he's also been profiling various up-and-coming musicians. And that's a fascinating little element of it. Like, once in a while, you'll jump in a cab and see a profile on a youngish indie band or, like, whatever's going on. And
okay. All right. That's cool.
Still, back in 2013, if you could picture this, right? I'm, 18 years old. I don't even know. Yeah. And I tweet at him because we're obsessed with him and we want him on our record.
I love that.
And I write to him and I'm like, Sandy, we are huge fans here at Youth Posse and we just would love it if we could feature you on our record. We want you to basically intro it and we want you on our song called Shine a Light in My Face. Mm-hmm. Want you to say Shine a Light in My Face. And he immediately is touched. He writes back. I never thought he would write back. He's like, oh, Karina, I love rock music. This is awesome. We get him in our rehearsal space. We totally become fast friends. He's hilarious, coolest guy ever. He's like, well, let me tell you something about LA in the 80s, kids. It was a crazy time. Oh, baby. And he's telling us crazy ass stories and it's awesome. And we totally feature him on our first record. He opens it and he goes, Youth Posse is the kind of music you feel down below. And we're fucking dead. We're like the best. Nothing will ever top this. Anyway, so, throughout the years, we've kept in touch. He even introduced that band live once back in the day. And, he follows me on the social media. I follow him. We send each other a friendly note once in a while. And cool. Right before the quarantine, he wrote to me, and I hope I'm not divulging too much. But he says, Karina, it's your time now, baby. We want to feature you in the cabs. We want to do a story on you. Wow. And he was literally like the week after quarantine was going to come and basically, that team was going to film us in the studio recording 2 new singles, Karina Rykman singles. And he was going to interview me then at my apartment and they were going to have, splice it all together. And that shit was going to be dope. And I was so stoked on it just because what the fuck, that's so fun.
So fun.
And now it's not, we're going to have to wait a little while for all of those things to come back. So that's the full narrative. That's, now you really know a lot about Sandy Kenyon and you know about the Eyewitness News Movie Minute. And I just, can't wait for things to go back to semi-normal so that we can do that.
I mean, I would love to have Sandy Kenyon on the podcast to discuss what was going on in Hollywood in the 80s, that he's still flabbergasted about it 30 years later. What was it? Let's hear the stories.
Some debaucherous, risque stories about his old life. And I was like, wow, that is deep. You definitely don't get that from him through the cabs.
Yeah, he seems very put together and organized and like he's done it a million times in the cab. Exactly. That's basically the vibe. So it was just jarring for him to kind of cut loose with us in our studio and, record crazy ass things. Just that to me is very surprising that he came to your studio. Mostly in that situation, they would just cut the audio and email it to you, right? Like, this is what you want. He actually showed up to the studio, really putting the time in, Sandy Kenyon, really putting the time in.
He's a real New York legend, and we stand him. He is the best. He's a great guy. So I appreciated him, following me up until now and being really open to doing stuff. He's the man. He's a good one.
So when you're in the cabs, because obviously cabs are going to return, and then Sandy Kenyon's going to go back to work, and then he's going to be like, oh, I got Karina Rykman to feature. Is this your Spotify project, Karina Rykman on Spotify? Is that where the music is going to go for this album that you seem to be creating?
Yeah, they're in everywhere. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly. And yes, it is my namesake band.
Okay.
Whatever you want to call it, for sure.
What do you call it?
Karina Rykman.
Okay, I thought it was Karina Rykman Experience. Was that a thing?
Never experienced, but what you're thinking of is Karina Rykman Experiment.
Experiment. My bad.
It all started me and shout out to my boys, Mr. Adam November on guitar and Chris Corsico on the drums.
Yes.
3-piece. Karina loves 3-pieces. And, it all started just as pure improv, not anything planned, not a launch point, not a key, not nothing, really nothing. So then in that era, I was like, oh, it's the Karina Rykman Experiment.
Right.
It's a motherfucking experiment.
Take it literally, folks. Take it literally.
After a short while of that, I started, writing songs or trying to, and coming up with some things from which to launch off of, and it became, and now I want to write my own music, and I am, and put it out and experiment like you just demonstrated. It was getting confused for experience quite a lot.
Yes.
People read it quickly and it's all good, but that was never the vibe. You know what I mean? It was an experiment because it was literally an experiment, not like,
right.
Rykman Experience, get your tickets here, now.
That works for me too. They both work for me.
Well, that's great. Well, I appreciate that. So
it's all about the music at that point, It
is, but I definitely just knocked off the experiment moniker, if you will, and just my name from, here on out. I just felt like that was the call.
You know what's great about the having the band have your name on it is they can't fire you.
They really can't.
They can't.
And I can make one record with these guys and another with these guys, and I can work with my producer pal on this and my organic band on that, which is what I've done in the past. And it's all just Karina. It's just me, So
love it.
It's good to be able to put stuff out and do whatever you want to do. Wouldn't you say? It's just great.
It's a hustle out there. And when you put your name on the project, there's a certain responsibility and hard work that just flows naturally out of it. So if you're putting your name on it, your stamp on it, then I'm sure it's going to be fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I try. We'll see.
Yeah, I gave you a follow on Spotify. I listened to 2 songs today. They were both super cool.
Thank you. I hope to populate it with more stuff soon. It's just, which I really, if this quarantine had not happened, I was studio was the next week. I was so pumped.
Yeah.
Brutal, but it's all right. We'll figure it all out. It's a one day at a time situation. But thank you. Thanks for listening.
That was fun. I love it. I haven't heard, I saw also on Spotify that you have a number of playlists, just a huge amount. I've never seen anybody with this many playlists. Is that, and then I also saw some stuff that where you were DJing. are those two connected in any way, or is the DJing just separate from the playlist, or is there? Do you think of them as different things or the same thing?
I back in my old life when things were different, I have done many a DJ gigs in various formats. Corporate parties. I've done all, whatever it takes. I'm down. I'm available. For the record, I'm good to go. So, once in a while I will make a playlist and work off of that. But I feel like I've been making playlists since I was yay high, yay. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. And maybe yay high. What the fuck was I just saying? Oh yeah, hell yeah. So, I love making playlists. Love it. Always have. And I feel like I've just had like a brain for it. And way pre Spotify, like if you looked at my like childhood iTunes, it was like, so many playlists, like different vibes, different moods, different eras of music. I'm super eclectic in my music listening. So like,
sure,
I can, kind of either exacerbate that or put things into categories and, whatever. So it's a little OCD, but it's good. And when I DJ, I feel like I just have just a huge arsenal of music kind of chronicled in my brain. And if I think of specific playlists being like different vibes for different moods, for different parties, then I'll be like, oh shit, like the first half of Blaze of Fire Evening would be really great right now. And then I'm like, oh, I got to look into Foreign Psych Groove Vibe for the second half. And then, I got to, that type of shit. So it's just some bizarre, borderline autistic thing. I'm like, let's go. I got all my playlists. We got to put them out there. People got.
Yeah. So it's like a very organic thing for you. You're just basically using features that Spotify has for your own enjoyment.
And I've been doing it for years, and now with Spotify, it's cool, and I like it because you can share them so easily, as opposed to being like, yo, let me burn you my hot new mix, dude. Yeah. In your car, with the whole shareable situation. Yeah, it's something I very much enjoy.
People I never really make playlists for other people, but I forget to make them private sometimes. And then people will talk to me on tour or whatever, and they'll be like, why did you choose these songs on this playlist? And I'll just be like, how did you even find that? I don't even know. You think of Facebook, you think of Instagram, you think of your profile that the world sees, and I don't think of Spotify that way, and I should, but I think of Spotify as a way to collect music for me, not for a way to make a profile for other people.
That's a very good point, and it's a good thing to remember. And then sometimes I forget too, because I always listen on my phone, but then sometimes you look on your laptop and you see it's almost like a social media thing. You see what people are listening to, and I'm like, oh shit, all these people know what I've been listening to. That's bad.
Yeah, I know. There was a time where I was just singing along with soul singers like Sam Cooke and stuff like that. And so if you looked at my Spotify page, you'd be like, this guy listens to the same 22 soul songs every single day. And it's because I was literally practicing, not, it's Spotify is that for me sometimes, or you can just use it for that kind of stuff.
Totally. I do the same stuff for sure. And sometimes you have a gig or whatever, and you have to learn a bunch of new music, and you just, listen, same stuff over and over. And people must think we're really out of our minds. It's great.
We are a little bit, I think. I mean,
oh man, spectrumed out, dude. I'm talking about myself. Yeah, definitely.
So you're on the spectrum.
Oh, certainly. I mean, gotta be on a couple. Jeez.
You don't seem like it to me. You don't seem. I don't know where you're. I don't know. I think I'm on the spectrum a little bit, but I don't know about you.
I'm a bit of a lunatic,
Are you?
Yeah, I think so. In a cool way for the most part, not in a really fucked way, definitely. But yeah, I think I'm a little different for sure. And it's getting worse with the quarantine. I'm losing my mind, a little bit more each day, I feel like. And I kind of have trouble with putting the right words in front of one another, which I never used to. And I have a weekly podcast too. And every week it becomes harder and harder to, make coherent sentences. And I'm like, wow, I think it's the quarantine. I'm going to blame it on the quarantine.
Let's talk about your podcast. Your podcast is on the Relics Network. It's called 3 for 7, and you talk about 3 news items every 7 days. And I listen to your podcast. I enjoy your podcast. It's always news that is new to me, and I appreciate that you guys do it. I also appreciate that your guys' podcast is done. It seems to be so much more organized than my podcast. Could you explain to me how you do that amidst all this craziness that you're talking about?
Well, I certainly have nothing to do with it. I'm just the person who comes in and just talks crazy shit, and then they put it all together. But it's a beautiful.
That's why.
Yes, exactly. I love that. I love it. I'm like, and it was like that even when it was in person. I would just show up to the Relics office, and my dear partner in crime, her name is Rafaela Kenny Sincata, a long, fabulous name. She is dope. She is an awesome human. And Mr. Pete Shapiro, a year ago, came to me and was like, I have this great idea. We're going to put you and Raph together, and you're going to talk about the like jam band news stories for the last 7 days. You do it every week. What do you think? Like, I was like, I love it. Let's do it. Sign me up.
Brilliant.
You've never led me astray, Peter. And we're like a year deep on this shit once a week. It's been crazy, and it's super fun. And she is the mastermind behind all of it. She comes up with the news stories. I come up with nothing. She puts it together in a very beautifully organized Google Doc that I either look at or don't before we record. I just like to, I think they have me because I, can kind of roll with the punches. I talk a little bit of shit. We, rap about this, we rap about that. And she's the organized one. She's the Dave Patch to my Bill Walton, if that makes sense,
No. Well, who's Dave Patch? I mean, I know who Bill Walton is. I hung out.
Straight, he's like the dude who, is the more straight-laced commentator. And they have this partnership, and Bill's always like, well, 1972, Jerry Garcia, the Palace. And then Dave is like, all right, let's just bring it back for now, And that's our relationship. I'm the one who's like, well, let me tell you, Raph. One day I saw a fucking turkey, and my friend's dad was like,
yeah,
that's what we're working with. So
you guys have a little chemistry going on.
It's a good thing, She's definitely, she's like the Robin to my Howard. Is that a thing? Yeah, that's definitely a thing. It's
You're Howard Stern, and she's Robin Quivers, and you guys are doing the news just like Howard does the news.
We're just shooting it straight. She's coming up with all of it. I'm, now in quarantine times, just waltzing up to my computer and going for it. But back in the day, I would just waltz into the Relics office and say, yo, yo, yo. And everybody's like, oh, flip a few desks over, cause a bit of a ruckus. Everybody's disturbed by my presence, hopefully in a joyful way. But,
hopefully, but you never know, really. You never know.
How are you going to be received, Barber? How are you going to be received? Who knows?
It's a constant battle for how you're received versus how you think you're being received,
Totally. I just try not to think about it too much and, make it all fun for everyone, God willing.
That's a good way.
It's great. So that's been a good thing of the last year for sure. And it's definitely a Peter Shapiro brainchild. So you got to respect the legend.
Well, I commend you guys on your consistency because I know how hard that is. And it's very impressive. You guys obviously have your shit together. I know you're saying it's, obviously you're doing something right. And I have right next to this Zoom call, I have a Pete Shapiro interview wrapped for this podcast. So maybe you and Pete Shapiro will drop at the same time because his podcast is, it's amazing that the very next podcast I do, we're also I'm still talking about Pete Shapiro. You know what I mean?
Amazing. That's great. Tell him I say, yo, and how's it going? And send my best. That's great.
Nice.
Good time.
Nice. So you have this podcast. You have 2 bands. You're going to be in taxi cabs in New York. Things are happening. You also work with Jake and the Rocks Off boat cruise. So you're booking shows there as well. Is that a full-time job when we're not in quarantine, or isn't that a lot of work? How do you balance that with everything?
It's most certainly a shit ton of work. And it's kind of just organically, kind of at the time of quarantine coming all along, it was starting to not make sense anymore, even though I love doing it and so awesome. And Jake is like, a mentor and dear friend and, lifelong pal. I consider him for sure. And
I do as well.
Brilliant. He set himself on fire at one of your shows in '99. That's lifelong.
He did.
Love.
I was there for that. Little moment.
I'm impressed.
I mean, back then with the music we were playing was just everybody was like, this is so crazy that there was a lot of stuff like that happening in '99.
Sometimes you got to light yourself on fire and, really make it happen. I don't know. But yeah. Point being, great guy. Love the guy. And I started working for Rocksoft the summer between high school and NYU. And right. I was in a band called The Sound of Urchin, and we toured around a bunch and, did this and that. And one of the shows that summer was a Rocksoft concert cruise. And I had never met Jake before. And, but I knew of him. He was like you'd see him around. He made himself known. I was like, oh, that's the Rocksoft guy, always doing something crazy, blah, blah, blah. But I really liked the ethos, the vibe, the whole nine. So at the end of that show, I said to him, we started talking, and I was like, I'm about to start at NYU in a month. And if you need an intern, I'm your girl. And he was like, oh, we haven't had an intern in 5 years, but I could tell you are the one. You are just crazy enough, sounds perfect. You start tomorrow. And that literally lasted 7.5 years, which is crazy.
Wow.
All throughout college, had a full-time salaried job the entire time and, was playing music too and whatnot. And it just at the, in March basically was and this is pre-quarantine, right? So it all kind of, we kind of talked to each other, Jake and I was like, I think music kind of has to happen for me right now in this way. Yeah. It just kind of made sense. Not in I guess kind of in a quit your day job kind of way, but a more
definitely in a quit your day job kind of way.
Yeah. And not to get a big head about it or anything, but I kind of we both kind of agreed the way it was all going. I just couldn't handle what I used to handle. And, but I keep the email address, Karina at Rocksoft. That's how we agreed. Email address is totally mine to keep, and I will keep it for my whole life if I can. And
it's like Jordan retiring a jersey at the Bull Center.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I will, when shows resume and whatnot, he's like, we can definitely keep working together and however much or however little you want to do. And, he's just the best. He's an amazing human and, really taught me everything about the business, and just making offers and, dealing with calendars and dealing with bands and all the hospitality stuff and settling and all that stuff. It continues to be, and it was an amazing thing that guy created. So hats off to Jake. Crazy, wonderful human he is for sure. And I feel lucky to have worked so closely with him for many, many a year.
Well, when we started at Wetlands, even before Pete Shapiro bought the place, there was a ticket-taking guy who sat in the little ticket booth and looked exactly like Joey Ramone. And we used to go there before our band was big enough to play Wetlands. We would go there, and the Joey Ramone guy would never let you in because we were these young kids. We didn't have tickets. We'd be trying to flyer for our other show at the Lions Den around the corner for 100 people. And so we'd be in some kind of war with him. And so we got to know Jake really well before we knew anybody else in there because we were the pests that he had to deal with. We would show up and we'd flyer people. We'd create a huge mess. There'd be flyers all. And that was how we got into Wetlands was we just showed them that we were willing to promote And we did that through our whole career there. And we, Jake was the guy that you would talk to who would kick you out of the club for the first 70 times. And then the next 70 times, he would kick you out of the club, but you would have a nice conversation and a good time. And then next thing you know, we were in with the guy who looks like Joey Ramone.
And then went on to play the club numerous times, right? You guys played there a shit ton, I feel like. But not that I was there, but in terms of the...
I think we sold that out more than any other band, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Some bands sold it out and went on to stadiums. You know what I mean? They're like, we don't have time to sell out Wetlands anymore. But we were like, no, we have time to sell out Wetlands another 25 times. An interesting thing about Jake was only a couple of years ago, he had done some favor. He had really made it so far up in the game as a promoter that he was doing favors for like the guys who run the MSG and the whole thing. And we got some owner's box or something at a hockey game. Me and Jake, he invited me over, invited a couple other people, but it was really Jake's box for the night. And it was just like really like he went from the ticket guy at Wetlands to the owner's box at Madison Square Garden in 15 or 20 years. And in the meantime, he made like a European metal band that was super successful. That was like so crazy. Love Jake.
Talent buyer for the Brooklyn Bowl in London while that was going on, and had so many lives. I mean,
so many lives.
It's a beautiful thing. We could all aspire to live life as fully as he really does, continues to, and he's always innovating. And he's making these masks, these rocks off masks, like in the Corona time. And they're crazy and they're selling like hotcakes, and he's killing it. So it's a beautiful thing. Go check out the Rocks Off masks.
Am I missing out by not making a mask, like a Touchdowns All Day mask? Am I blowing it?
Maybe you can collaborate with Jake and you could, split the profit.
Are we screwing up by not like adding masks to our merchandising pages?
It's become such a thing. Look, here, there's a fish mask just right next to me. Do you see that?
Amazing.
There's so many. They're just everywhere. I can't get away from them. It's become a thing. So yeah, maybe it's a thing.
I wonder if you wear that mask into like the New York subway, if they just like turn stop and frisk back on and try and see if you have any acid on you or something like that.
Totally. They're like, yep, way to out yourself.
Yeah, I know. Seriously. I was always the type of person who like didn't want any like Grateful Dead stickers or fish stickers on my car. I was like, no. Like, I don't want to give the police any reason to do any more crazy shit.
Right.
So
have a NICU license plate or like yeah.
Yeah. Never did any of that. I would just keep it. I got a Dodgers hat in Los Angeles, which just makes me super normal. I'm just super, super normal. Don't pull me over. Don't talk to me, please.
Low profile.
Yeah.
Exactly. Stickers on the car is not my vibe. I'm not into stickers as such. Like You get a lot of whoop gifts. I'm sure you get more whoop gifts than anybody, but
I get a lot of pins. People give me pins. I have 100,000 pins. I don't know what to do with them. I think I'm gonna get like one of those like cloth boards, I guess they're called, that you can stick the pins into and just have like some kind of art project. 20 years of pins.
It's like whoop gift pin, whoop gift pin, whoop gift pin. It's great. Yeah, I get those too, and I don't know what to do with it. You get like pendants with Ron Dass quotes on them, just like
I'd like that.
It's kind of cool, but I have like 24 of them. I don't know what to do.
You wear them all at the same time is what you're supposed to do.
Exactly. And I'm like, yo, what's up, everybody? This is my Ron Dass. I talk about outing yourself. The cops look really close at you. They're like, I think I see what you're into. Anyway. But yeah, stickers, not my thing. But I do, hopefully I'll get an art board like you for those. Just be like, oh, these are the stickers I've been gifted. Thank you.
You got to have some, I think a big mistake that I made back in the early days was I didn't collect the random artifacts and put them somewhere. Like nobody collected all the posters. There's just so much stuff. And it seemed lame to collect it all. I was like, oh, I'm not gonna be one of those guys who like collects everything. But now that I got a kid, and I'm sure he wants to know like what I did in 2001, that I was, so busy, and there's recordings, which is cool, but there's also like the vibe, and a lot of that stuff's in the t-shirts and the posters and stuff. And I just don't have a full collection of everything. It would be cool. It's a little self-serving, but it would be cool.
But sometimes you gotta archive your shit. You gotta see, especially for your child. Congrats, by the way. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. How's that going? Going all right? Can I interview you?
I mean, yeah, sure. I love having a child. I don't know why I waited so long. He's super cool. And the quarantine's amazing for having a kid. There's you sound like you're in a quarantine. You sound like pretty happy. I have a little 3-person quarantine, a little commune over here. And it's really great. And I just, I've never been in a house with a child in my whole life. So everything is new to me. Everything. Like the fact that you have to stick a little thing in his nose to pull out the boogers. Do you know about this? I didn't know.
Cut. That is a super deep cut, my friend. Wow.
I had no idea. I want one for myself. You know what I mean? Like I want like an adult-sized one.
Right. It's a reverse neti pot, except,
Exactly. It'd be great for tour,
Freak out your bandmates. Be like, yeah, sorry, got one of these, child quarantine. I learned a lot. And then you're just, reverse neti potting yourself.
Yeah, there was a stage in the Biscuits where like everybody was doing a lot of overt personal hygiene stuff, like out in front of everybody. Like people used to floss in the bus.
Man, wow. Well, big ups for flossing at all, but that's a lot.
I know, seriously. Nobody wanted to tell them to stop because it was impressive to see how flossing actually worked on a human. Like, wow, that's what that string is for. Oh my God, that's crazy.
Wow, I can't believe you do that. That's so much time. That's beautiful. Good for you, but that's disgusting. You should do your, in your hotel room, in your bunk,
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Wow. We don't have much of that. I do I will sleep on the floor of the Sprinter van, just straight up, like on the floor. And that's kind of weird. But other than that, we all kind of keep it together. Nobody's flossing. Shit, we got to get to flossing. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, look, the baby has this like little bed thing. And it's like we could get like larger adult size like versions of, I guess they have aero beds. It's just an aero bed. The baby has a little aero bed. He doesn't sleep on, like, if you want to put him to sleep, you don't put him in like something. You put him in the aero bed in something for some reason. You do that.
This is such a good time to have either a child or a new dog or like something that requires a lot of like, very individualized attention.
Yeah.
And you got all the time, right? You kind of can just really dive in. How old is your son?
He's 3 months, three months, a few weeks right now. He's over 3 months.
So he's a real kid. He's like,
I think so. I think he's a human. When he does in the morning, if he doesn't talk to me, I'm like, what? Why won't you speak to me? And he's like, ah, and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh, I understand. I just pretend I understand everything he says, but I really have no idea what he's talking about.
Sure. Wow, that's so amazing. If you could really, this is definitely a good time to be hunkered down with, something that needs your love and attention every waking moment of the day. You're not pulled away. You're not going on the road on the weekends. Figure out what's going on with that. It's good timing in a lot of ways.
It's interesting because people are like, some people come up to me and they're like, yo, you must be psyched about, because let's just say, for instance, let's take an example. You would just call Marco and say, hey, I'm going to just take 2 months off of music and just go to this house in New Rochelle or whatever and just hang out, maybe catch a turkey, and I'll see you in 8 weeks. Like, that wouldn't fly with Marco. It might, but I know if I did that with the Biscuits, they'd be like, what? We have shows to play. We got to go to the Fillmore. We got to go to Mission Ballroom. We have a tractor beam. You got to okay the t-shirts. We got to talk about Camp Bisco. It's like the interesting thing about quarantine is that all that stuff vanished. And it literally was, oh, great. Now I get to just hang out in my house all day. This is awesome.
it's definitely a good reset in a lot of ways that you probably would never have otherwise, and that I would never elect to have otherwise, or, could have ever. I'm so like go, go, go all the time. I literally never stop doing anything. That like, this has been kind of an interesting experiment to see like how my body and brain would deal with like a bit of a pause, So I feel like it's that for a lot of people, and some probably fare better than others with the predicament.
Do you think this is going to happen again after this? Do you think once we resume fully, that's it for your lifetime and my lifetime? Or do you think 4 years from now, we're going to be quarantined again?
For some other crazy pandemic situation.
Yeah.
That's a great, they call it unprecedented times. Can't get enough of calling it fucking unprecedented times, right? And it kind of, it really feels that way. I never saw this coming. And the Spanish flu was 1918 or something? So we're talking about 100 years. I couldn't tell you. I really hope this is a one and done for the next 100 years. That would be really great.
That'd be great. Yeah.
That'd be great. One and done. It goes to show you, like, I couldn't ever even conceptualize something like this happening. You know what I mean? Like, it was not like, once in a while there's like a thing that happens where shit gets really, really fucked. And like, you have to recalibrate your entire being and rethink about, how you conduct your daily life. You can't do this. You can't see your friends. When you go shopping, you go once a week, all the shit. I hope it doesn't. I hope basically we can develop enough to get the vaccine to really, kind of squelch it once and for all. They talk about the second wave. That scares me. I don't even want to think about that, and my parents are in their lower 70s and they're in Manhattan, and I'm just like, oh boy, like, I've been in the Hudson Valley this whole time, and my folks are like at the global epicenter of this, and it's just like scary. You just want it to go away. You want peace and to resume. Having said that, given what we were just talking about, it's, for me, it's been a good reset in some ways. I think it's shown what's important. It's shown that, I'm, really a person who enjoys performing live more than anything. Like, I'm definitely not a musician who like gets off on practicing 8 hours a day or anything like that. Like, that's not what's good for me.
Yeah. It's true. I think
I'm stoked. Some people are like, oh, now I get to shed like all day. That gives me energy. I'm like, it gives me zero energy. It like, people give me energy. I'm a huge extrovert. Like, it puts things in a bit of perspective in terms of like, when you slow down, you can reflect. And that's a good thing sometimes. I'm interested.
It is a weird thing that we've all seen the movies where the virus does the thing 28 days later or whatever, and everybody moves into a house in New York State, and most people, 90% of the world dies or something. So we all have known that something like this really could happen. Yet being in the pandemic itself, where you see the details of like waiting line at the supermarket, wearing the mask, being this like living in this world where it's like we all coexist, but we can't touch each other and social distancing and stuff. Like the details of it for me, really, I didn't even think, I never had a thought of any of this stuff ever.
It's crazy. It's really crazy. And then you get, also no direction from a federal level, 50 different states doing 50 different things. The numbers in New York are down, but the numbers, and I look at this shit like a fucking hawk. I'm like, numbers in some states like down south and whatnot are like up. And it's just, when you're not getting good leadership from the country in terms of like what to do, all 50 states, you're just like listening to your governor and not. And, some people are like, it's a hoax. Other people are like, you're fucking crazy. It's just such a blend of crazy, strong feelings all around. I feel like everybody has some very strong opinion, and it's a hard thing to navigate. It's fucking crazy, dude.
It is crazy. People have like really strong opinions about things like it's a hoax. And it's just like, okay, maybe it's a hoax, but like, do you know that much that it's a hoax that you could have this like extremely strong opinion about it? I think people just want to drink beers and go boating down south. I don't even think they care if they get COVID. They just want to go boating. The whole point of living down south, like think of Jimmy Buffett and think of like country music in general, is just like, I want to get on my boat, drink a bunch of beers, and live free. You know, they don't want your rules. It's good to see them staying consistent in the midst of a pandemic.
That's very true. That's some stick to your guns type shit. Literally.
To go out and get COVID. I mean, the numbers are going up, but let's meet at the lagoon on our boats and drink beers, and if we wear masks, they're camouflage or something.
Exactly. I mean, you know, it's all relative, and people are just surviving the best they can. And what are you going to say other than you should really do your part to hashtag stop the spread or whatever that would be.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I don't know what's going on. I feel like a new thing pops up every day where it's like, and now children are dying, and now nose can turn purple, and everything's crazy. Did I tell you I will fucking break this to the world? I had it. I have the antibodies. You're looking.
Come on.
Oh, straight up, 100%. I haven't. This is new public domain. But yeah,
great.
Literally, the week after we got up here, and this is me, my best friend / roommate, his brother, his girlfriend, my boyfriend, and his mother.
Okay.
And so we're up here, right? Like straight out of New York City, but I've been on 6 different flights the 2 weeks leading up to it too. I've played all in Florida. I played in Tampa, Hollywood, Miami the weekend before. I'm in Boise. Then the weekend before I was in Denver. I've been all over the place. And then definitely riding subways, going to the gym every day, doing all the stuff that you're not now, you're really not supposed to do. Right.
Yeah.
Up here and, knock on wood, we're all totally fine. But a week and a half go by. And then I had one night of a slight fever, where I was definitely oh shit, what is going on? Uh-oh. Woke up in the morning, totally fine, took the Tylenol, we're good. But then slept Rip Van Winkle for 4 days and
nice.
Completely lost my sense of taste and smell. So that.
Whoa. That's it, right? That's the thing.
And so we were oh shit. And then that happened to Isaac, my best friend, as well, just the taste and smell portion. And then everybody else completely asymptomatic, but we recently just got antibody tested, and whole household has got those antibodies. So
wow,
crazy thing, man. It's crazy. So knock on wood, I know, we got very lucky, as they say, but yeah, it takes a lot of shapes and forms apparently, and mine was extremely mild and went away in a week. But it's a crazy thing.
So what is food like when you can't taste or smell anything?
It sucks. It super sucks. And cooking, and I love to cook, and I've been really, for my commune, really deep in the recipes,
Mm-hmm.
And when you're trying to cook and taste stuff and be does it need more salt? I don't fucking know. Can somebody who can taste this for me? And then you call somebody else in, they're tasting, and
you can't taste anything at all. You just feel the heat of the food.
Spicy enough, you can taste you're oh, this is probably spicy. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I straight up was taking I was oh shit, I think I really can't smell. And I would literally take Clorox bleach and be can I smell that? No, I straight up can't smell that. I would take all my shampoo and all that stuff and just huff it, trying to get something. Got nothing. So you're oh wow, I think this is bad. This is not good.
Wow, that's insane.
People just gotta, fucking be kind to all right now, because this shit is traumatic. Even if I feel I'm doing well and you seem to be doing well, you got the kid, it's a fucked up thing we're living through right now. There's no question about it. So I feel you just gotta be real good to your fellow everybody. And
yeah. There's definitely trauma is an interesting word, because I feel the quarantine, for me, I'm used to being alone. I'm used to sitting in this room by myself for hours on end. But and I also have, a baby. Like, I'm okay, but I feel like I kind of lucked out. I don't know if everybody necessarily, like, you're in a commune, but there's some people who live alone and, have been alone with like Netflix for 2 months.
Crazy. It is that. And I know a few people who are alone throughout this whole thing. And I'm just like, wow, like that is deep. And that's a really tough thing. So shout out to everybody who's alone. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. Thanks. That's why we make this podcast. That's why, we decided to bring you on the podcast because we're really excited about all the stuff that you're doing. And I just wanted to talk to you. And we're trying to do make some extra podcasts for people because, that this is good, easy content for people. It's good for people to find out what's going on in the world. It's fun for us. But it is. I feel like when the quarantine is finally over, we should do some kind of concert where like to get in, there's no money. It doesn't cost anything. You just have to have been alone during quarantine. It's like, let's do a healing concert for everybody who really quarantined it out.
That is a great idea. And I would be thrilled. I will offer up whatever services I can offer up to help the people who have been alone this entire time. I can't imagine. And it's a real undertaking. That's all you people out there. You loners.
You loners.
Bless your heart. That is wild.
I mean, look, Netflix isn't that great. I mean, I prefer Hulu, to be honest. So, and I've run out of shows. I've watched them all. I'm sure everybody's watched them all. But I feel like a lot of people are making good in this time and doing a lot of cool stuff. And so, hopefully it's over soon.
Yeah, I really hope so. Jeez. I think it's starting to lessen, it depends on the state, of course, but I know you're on the West Coast, but over here, the state of New York, we're definitely doing so much better than, it started out really scary. It started out really bad. And I look at the numbers every day and it's like under 100 deaths a day now. And it's pretty chill in that regard, which is like, it's so crazy to even say that and be like, yay, under 100 deaths a day. But like, that's a lot considering it was fucking through the roof.
Yeah.
Towards the beginning. So, just looking up and, staying the course. I feel like it's good to not get too ahead of oneself when the shit starts to look better too. Cause, just got to keep it chill. Phase 1 reopening, phase 2, all that shit. It's good. I'm here for it. We do it slowly, make it safe. Can't wait to play a concert again, but that's a whole other thing. And that's a personal matter. And it's bigger than me. It's bigger than us. So what are you going to do?
It's the whole planet. I want to go to like a barn and have like a band rehearsal and like retry all the things we were doing in January and stuff and just try it, like dust it off a little bit. Is it safe for me to come back east at this point, or because I got to come back with the baby, introduce the baby to the grandparents, all of Lisa's family. So I have like a whole trip in mind. And the question is like, when, because in California here, there's like it's not a big problem where I live at the moment, but I'm kind of scared to go back east because it's so intense over there.
It's pretty intense, and you should, I would give it some time just because, like, the whole being on a plane thing is, like, unless you really gotta right now, I feel like a good thing to avoid, especially, with the kid, just, like, keeping it chill, make sure both parents are good, I'd still wait. I'd wait it out, personally, but, I also know I have plenty of friends who, like, had to go somewhere, like, travel-wise, meaning, like, whatever. And like, that's the other thing with this whole thing. I really feel like you got to do what you got to do. People are living their lives. You gotta,
Yeah.
So you can live in as much fear as you want to live in, and it's a scary thing. Don't get me wrong. But if you got to travel, you got to travel. If you got to do this, you got to do this. Like, just try and do everything as safely as possible for you and your fellow people.
Well, I want to make an egg. Like how Dead Mouse's helmet is. Did I lose you? I think I just lost. Well, folks, that concludes our interview with Karina Rykman. bass player, super talent extraordinaire, podcaster, solo artist, DJ, and just, up and coming superstar, let's face it. I don't know, I guess that was that. I don't know what to do now. I'm zooming with myself. Hey, what are you guys doing? I'm zooming with myself. I guess that's it. Well, it was super fun. We had a mystery jam to listen to, and we didn't. I'll listen to it. I'll save it for another guest. It's not the whole jam. Like, if we're going to listen to something, just us, right? If we're going to listen to something, we're going to listen to the whole jam, right? We're not going to listen to a piece and be like, oh, what? I'm not going to guess. I guess I could. All right. I don't think she's jumping back on. I think her internet probably died. But that was great. I think we got a podcast there. Right? I think it's a really cool opportunity. The podcast for me is a really fun opportunity to meet people, and I really feel like I got to know her right there. Like, next time I see her, it's gonna be a pleasure to see her, and we'll catch up, and that is cool. I'm a very big fan of that. So thank you for being on the podcast, Karina Rykman. You're a wonderful guest, and I had a bunch of good laughs, and we'll do it again sometime. Thank you guys for listening. We're mass communicating.
We're mass communicating.